Welcome to Season 2 of Behind the Book, brought to you by Play MGM. Gill Alexander, along with the man, VP of Race and Sports at MGM Resorts International, Jay Rood, everybody. Hello, Jay.
How's it going, Gill?
I'm doing very well. Good to shake hands with you again.
Absolutely.
You ready?
It's been a while.
You ready to do this?
Yeah, Season 2. Let's tee it up.
So here's how this works. We go through the marquee college football matchup of the week, 3 NFL games, and then Jay, kind enough, if you're willing, to answer some questions, give us some tips.
Give you some tips, yeah. Well, I'll try and help you out.
All right.
I mean, you got to beat 11 to 10, so anything I can do to help.
He's talking vig. He's already talking bookie talk. This week, Notre Dame, USC in college football, big rekindling of an old rivalry. And then in the NFL, Aaron Rodgers no longer with the Packers. They host the New Orleans Saints, do the Packers. Then Sunday afternoon, the Giants, who are off a win, they're going to host the Seattle Seahawks. We'll talk about that briefly. And then the big one, Sunday night, the rematch of the Super Bowl, the Falcons and the Patriots. Let's do it. You ready?
Good slate. Let's do it.
Good slate on Behind the Book. Season 2 of Behind the Book, brought to you by Play MGM, begins with our college football marquee matchup of the week. This, Jay, is a rekindling of a old rivalry in college football. Really hasn't been a rivalry just because, honestly, Notre Dame hasn't been that good through the years, recent stretch. But it's USC at Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish 3.5-point favorites. You expect this to be the biggest bet college football game of the weekend, I imagine?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's kind of a weak schedule this weekend, and I think, USC hasn't been lighting it up on fire the last few years either. So,
yeah.
I mean, if you were looking at recency, I mean, Notre Dame probably gets the check mark for recency being a little bit better team. And they've been quietly going about their business this year. They took their one loss, and they've been, pretty productive team. So I think the action's going to be split on this a little bit.
Action will be split.
I believe
you expect
so.
it to move off the 3.5? You think it goes to 3 maybe?
I think it won't go to 3. I think, if anything, I think the Sharps might come in on this spot on Notre Dame at home. Just my gut feeling, but I think this is a game where we sit right at 3.5 all week long.
Interesting. USC and Notre Dame, both teams with one loss, kind of a de facto elimination game when you're talking about the college football playoff. So for those Notre Dame fans and Notre Dame backers upset with the fact that I might have downgraded Notre Dame at the beginning, fact is that Notre Dame is a key contender for a college football playoff, but whoever gets the second loss here, we don't have a historical precedent with a 2-loss team getting into the college football playoff, but both of these teams with really tough schedules moving forward as well.
Right.
USC's got some tough games, and they make it hard for themselves each and every week, it seems. Just getting by to this point with one loss has been a feat. So this should be a great ball game.
Right. USC playing to their competition, it seems like, and dealing with a lot of injuries as well. I mean, USC's had its fair share of injuries this year. So that could be, I thought this USC team was going to get better and better and better as the season went along and was going to be a serious contender for the playoffs. But basically right now, it's playoff every game for these guys on out with one loss.
Sure is.
And it's wide open, short of Alabama.
Wide open. Notre Dame still has NC State, Miami, and Stanford to contend with, but looking to get the win here, if not the cover again. The Fighting Irish 3.5-point favorites Saturday afternoon hosting USC. Ready to talk some NFL, Jay?
Let's do it. NFL is what drives the train.
That's bookie talk for It's Awesome for them. Sunday morning, Packers, 5.5-point home dogs to the New Orleans Saints, total set at 47.5. This, of course, the Aaron Rodgers list Green Bay Packers, in case you were nowhere in the country perhaps or somewhere in a different planet. Aaron Rodgers, broken collarbone against the Vikings last week. Dirty, maybe not, maybe so. Nonetheless, it's Brett Hundley at quarterback for the Packers. And I guess the question for you behind the desk is, what does Aaron Rodgers mean to the line? Aaron Rodgers versus a guy in Brett Hundley who we have 44 career passes to go on.
So if Aaron Rodgers was in this game, Packers would be 3.5.
Wow, so 9 points.
Right. They would be 3.5 with the public betting them to maybe 4 or 4.5.
I see. So 9 points in this particular matchup. I think that's what we also have to stress. It's not a static thing. Aaron Rodgers means something different at home against the Saints than he would, say, at New England versus home against the Giants. It matters what the matchup is. But in this particular matchup, the Saints, also a team that you've mentioned the public wants to really like.
Right. They have in the past. Drew Brees is a gunslinger.
Yeah.
They put up points. Public loves points. I think the over is 8-0 in the last Saints-Packers game. So
wow.
I don't know. That would be a dangerous bet maybe here because I think game manager Brett Hundley is going to have to come in and maybe not zinging around the field as much as a Packer team normally does. Rely on Ty Montgomery. Hopefully his ribs are 1 week better to control the clock against the Saints, who obviously can put up points, but also give up a lot of points late in the game as well, as they tried to do last week.
So let me take a shot at this. The public bets the Saints perhaps up to 6, and then you, if you were a wise guy betting, a handicapper, you would take the points, wouldn't you?
I would go into my pocket and take the points at that point, yes. That is what we call in the business a value play.
One of the rare times that the gentleman behind the book like Jay will actually need probably a team like the Packers.
Right, absolutely.
You rarely need the Yankees, you rarely need the Cubs,
Right.
You're going to need the Packers.
The public teams we don't get. I think last year we visited this and we dubbed it the poo-poo platter. I get served
platter
every week. The Browns, all the teams, the Colts, all the teams that everybody is going to obviously shy away from and bet the other side. And when you have a bad team playing a public team, that's worst case scenario on the weeks. But this is a team where you have a public team, but they're not going to back them this week with the injury to Aaron Rodgers. They're going to want to try and back the team with the higher scoring potential, and that will be the Saints.
Once again, Packers, as we do this right now, 5.5-point dogs with Brett Hundley behind center, hosting the Saints Sunday morning, Week 7 in the NFL. It is the Behind the Book Sports Show, live from the Barrage. One of the beautiful things about having the star of the show, VP of Race and Sports at MGM Resorts International, Jay Rood, who lords over 10 different sports books, is that
soon to be many more across the country, hopefully.
Hopefully, we shall see. Folks want to ask you questions, and so we are fortunate enough to have you here to actually answer them. You ready to answer one?
Yeah, let's answer one.
One of the more popular ones, and I get this right here, how are you guys actually so close to the actual outcome in both sides and totals in football games and other sporting events for that matter?
Well, yeah, I mean, it comes down to math, basically, right? I mean, it's math and sample size. So, early in the season is when things are more sketchy, and, that's sort of more of a myth. I mean, because realistically, we're, not as close as people think, but when something falls really close, everyone's like, wow, how do they do that?
How good are they?
And it's, the bigger the sample size you have, so like, 2/3 into the NBA season, yeah, I mean, we're landing really close on the totals all the time. I mean, that's why totals, if they run 3 or 4 points, it can be really dangerous for us because you get middled.
Yeah.
So, you got to be really careful in NBA totals. So anything where you have a really good sample size that comes into play throughout the year, the better we're going to be at predicting what's what. So, but, it's not necessarily trying to predict what the score is. I'm trying to split the action.
Split the action.
So the perception plays into it as well.
Yeah.
But, totals and point spreads, the bigger your sample size, the better you're going to be at it. And early in the season is where a lot of players, if you have a particular following, you got an edge against a guy like me because I have to put every game up. You don't have to bet every game.
Our biggest advantage, I should say, as bettors, the fact that we don't have to bet everything. You have to put up everything.
Yep.
We get to be selective. But as you intimate there, a little bit of confirmation bias when people think that you're always hitting the number. We just tend, as humans, the way our brain works,
right,
to remember when you hit the number, and we just sort of slough off.
Kind of like my wife, when I don't put the seat down.
Kind of like your wife.
She only remembers when I don't put the seat down.
When you don't put the seat down. Jay Rood, VP Race and Sports International, here at MGM Resorts. Please, all your questions, hit me up on Twitter at Beating the Book. Jay will be happy to answer all of them right here on the Behind the Book Sports Betting Series. All right, Sunday afternoon in the NFL, Seahawks on extra rest at the New York Giants. This opened as the Seahawks -3.5. It is now Seahawks -6 as we look up at the big board here. The Giants, really an example last week of a team that shows you how once you think you know something in the NFL, it turns out you know nothing at all.
Nothing in the NFL.
Nothing. Giants, Odell Beckham Jr. out for the season with an injury. Brandon Marshall done for the season with an injury. Dwayne Harris as well. Sterling Shepard, another wideout, out temporarily. And yet they go into Denver as 13.5-point dogs, not only cover, win outright.
Destroyed them. Dominated the game.
Unbelievable. Now, though, the money still not favoring the Giants, going the other way.
Yeah, I mean, Giants at home. Seahawks, like you said, on extra rest. Seahawks are dealing with a couple of big injuries. Left tackle is going to be out. Avril going to be out. So, a couple of things to deal with. And they're going to be obviously going clear across country. Travel is a little more overrated than it, a lot of people think. But
afternoon game, not a morning game.
Unless you're in Australia and then you're coming home, then that can create some problems.
Right, though not the case here.
Not the case here, but clearly everyone, this is going to be a game where already the sharps have jumped on the Seahawks and drove the number up. Come game day, every single person sitting in the book behind me and all the other 9 books that I run are going to be on the Seahawks. This game's got all the earmarkings of going to 7 easily. This is one of the ones, it's a pile-on game. We're going to need the Giants to suddenly work their magic again against now that Aaron Rodgers is out, a really legitimate NFC contender to win. It's wide open, but I think they've got the capabilities to really establish themselves. And this is a game where they've got a little brother that they could slap around maybe, but we'll see if they can do it.
What's interesting about that is the recency effect is so real in the NFL. What we have seen most recently is usually what influences public betting behavior. But what you're saying in this case is that nothing about that Giants win sunk in.
No, everyone is discounting that win 100%. And I'm just hoping that the Giants can show up and run the ball again like they did. And I think they might be able to control that. That's the only way that they're going to stay within this number is if they run the ball, I think.
All right, Giants 6-point dogs currently. Jay says might go to 7 at home against the Seattle Seahawks on Sunday afternoon. Come bet it at the Mirage or any of Jay's lovely MGM Resorts International
We're wearing big
properties.
blue. I mean, that's going to probably be the biggest game of the day for us.
Jay needs it. Jay's taking your money. Come down here. We enjoy it. Giants and Seahawks on Sunday afternoon. All right, each and every week in the NFL, typically what Jay and crew need, your biggest decision that is of the week, is often the Sunday night game. Folks like to chase, quote unquote, whatever they've lost earlier in the day. This time, it would be probably your biggest decision whether they were chasing or not. Last week, the Falcons were up on the Dolphins 17-0. They end up losing 20-17. If only the Falcons had a memory of a big lead loss in recent history.
Yeah, it might help them out this coming week.
Super Bowl, of course, famously, the Falcons up 28-3 over the Patriots. Late in the third quarter, Patriots come all the way back. Biggest comeback in Super Bowl history. And now who do the Falcons get? Sunday night, they travel to New England to take on the Patriots. Patriots 3.5-point favorites. Where does the money go here? Patriots very public, but they're getting the hook, the Falcons on the 3.5.
Where's the money go?
Where does the money go?
Falcons just lost to Jay Cutler.
Yeah, yes, they did.
Where's the money going? It's going to be all over the Patriots.
Yeah.
I mean, there is absolutely no way I think I'm going to be able to stop the money coming in on the Patriots at home with that performance that the Falcons threw in there. They didn't learn, right? Run the ball.
Run the ball. Milk the clock.
Yes, and I don't get it. I don't understand why. They already experienced it once.
Yep.
Close a game, ice it, but apparently they want to keep putting up points and doing whatever fantasy stats that they can get for their fans. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be a game clearly where probably the biggest liability we're going to have is the over. I mean, I think everyone's going to probably play this over because the Falcons defense apparently gives up a lot of points late. It's been the trend. Patriots defense.
That's the thing,
a little
right
thin.
There. Well, that's the thing. So the Patriots can have as bad a defense as humanly possible, and no one seems to care because we've seen them win Super Bowls with mediocre defenses. Perhaps not this bad statistically, but this is pretty bad, and you would think Matt Ryan, if anybody could exploit that, it would be someone like him.
Yeah, are you willing to put your money on Matt Ryan?
I am not, Jay.
In a 48 to 45 game?
No.
You think, yeah, I mean, I think the public is going to be all over the Patriots. We're going to need the Falcons, which,
You're okay with that.
I'd rather have the Falcons than the Browns.
Yeah.
True. And the Falcons coming off a loss, I'd probably rather have that too than them having throttled Miami and Jay Cutler, down in Miami, coming in thinking that, hey, we got this. I would rather coaches be in their faces all week and them going up there, feeling desperate. And I'll take the 3.5 points. Thank you very much. And it'll be huge because parlays, like you said, not because it's a double up, but it's because every parlay is going to funnel into this game. And now instead of offsetting with even money, I'm paying 10-1, 20-1, and trying to, if I have a big liability one way, I got to try and offset it, and it's not a great position to be in. So this is always a game where hopefully we've knocked enough public money out of the picture, and we can book this a little more straight up. But yeah, it'll be a fun game. In game on this should be really interesting too.
In game, a whole nother thing. Jay will need the Falcons because the Patriots are so public. Not necessarily a bad thing to always go by what Jay will need when you're making your own bets. By the way, total at 54.5. Jay thinks that's getting even higher by Sunday night. Patriots hosting the Falcons. Great Sunday night football game this week in week number 7 in the NFL. We close out each and every Behind the Book with our thoughts from each side, mine from the handicapping side, you from the desk side. What I'm looking at this week, Jay, from a statistical standpoint, San Francisco 49ers, 6-point dogs at home to the Cowboys. First team in the history of the NFL to lose 5 straight games by 3 points or fewer. In fact, they've lost their last 5 by a grand total of 13 points. So they are 0-6 in your standings, but they're 4-2 against the spread. We'll see if the Niners can keep that one close.
4-2 in your wallet.
4-2 in your wallet. The
That's
other
what
one
counts.
is, of course, the New England Patriots that we talked about earlier. The Patriots, while being still the Patriots, they have given up 300 yards plus passing to all 6 quarterbacks they've faced this season. The only team in the history of the NFL to give up 300 plus yards passing in 6 consecutive games ever. We'll see if it becomes 7 with Matt Ryan. Very possible.
Yeah, I mean, defensive coordinator, that's got to keep him up at night, right? I mean, they got to figure out how to stop somebody from passing the ball. But yeah, it's going to be interesting, and rightfully so. 54.5.
Yeah, for show, as the kids say. From your perspective, though, this is even more interesting to me. What is it that you're looking at? A behavior among the sharps is always probably something you look at.
Yeah, so it's particularly now that we're 5-6 weeks into the season, and we just went through a week where we had some significant injuries. With Aaron Rodgers going down, I'm going to be really focusing on that line and what that line is going to do from the sharp community influence. If they're going to come in and look to see if the public is really going to pile on the Saints, and then they'll come back on that. If we get close to 6.5, they might just sit and wait and see if we pull the panic cord and go to 7 and try and side us and take the 7 on that game. But we're going to be looking at that, and then we're also getting to the time of year where we got to look at weather. Especially like when you start getting 54, 55 totals up there. In the Patriots, it's going to be a night game. Wind is a real big factor into determining totals and the influence on the total. So we're going to be looking at weather games like on the Patriots and the Giant game, because Giants Stadium is notorious for wind issues, especially when it comes to a game that could potentially be fairly low scoring. Seahawks offense hasn't unhinged this year, so field goals could come down to determining that game and the cover. And the Giants Stadium is ugly. And 49ers too. That the weather in San Francisco is always unpredictable, but you're always looking more towards the east for the weather issues. So my guys will be focused on the injury games. Guys with new quarterbacks. The sharps will be studying whether they're practicing well, and coming out on Thursday, whether the injury reports Thursday, show anything new.
Yep. Buffalo, also a place where weather plays into. All of that stuff that Jay will be looking at.
And an injury in that game. That's a double watch.
Yeah. You got to focus on all of those things, inform your handicapping. The idea here is to make you money. Jay doesn't want you to, but that's the idea. Thanks for joining us. Behind the Book, brought to you by Play MGM. Join us each and every Friday right here live from the Mirage Racing Sportsbook. Maybe even come down, watch us live.
Watch us live, yeah.
We'd love to have you down here.
Have a beer, get some nachos.
For Jay Rood, I'm Gill Alexander. Thanks so much for joining us on Behind the Book.